Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our class on quiz time with Jhanvi Bajaj, Scientist and their Mnemonics Part 2. I hope you guys can see me and hear me well. Please leave a message in the chat box if you're able to see me and hear me well. Okay, yes. Okay, so I'm going to be able to see all your answers in the chat box and I will be replying to them over there. Today's session is going to be on quiz time with Jhanvi S. Bajaj, Scientists and their Mnemonics Part 2. Now, we've had the Part 1 of this topic last week, and in that we had discussed some famous scientists, their discoveries, and they are often asked in your exam as a decider question as to who has studied about the history, who has studied over the past 5.5 years versus those who have prepared just for the NEET PG exam. So these are objective type questions, and the problem with this is that we often don't get time to prepare for it. So what I have done is I have created two classes for you, Scientists and their Mnemonics Part 1 and Scientists and their Mnemonics Part 2, and you can read all the possible scientists that will be coming in your exam from these classes. So that is why I have presented to you this free class on the Unacademy YouTube channel, and I hope that it will be useful to you guys. Now, my name is Dr. Jhanvi S. Bajaj for everyone who's new to this channel, and I am the anesthesiology educator on the Unacademy app. What do you get on the Unacademy learning platform? Now here you're going to get live tests and quizzes, daily live classes and structured courses, and for all of this you need just a single subscription with which you will get unlimited access to whatever courses you want to access. Now another subscription that we have coming up is the Iconic subscription. So what is this Iconic subscription? It is a subscription of both Unacademy and Prep Ladder. So as you guys know, Prep Ladder has the most amazing question bank. So you're going to be able to access the live classes of Unacademy and also the video lectures and the recorded sessions and the question bank of Prep Ladder using this single subscription called as the Iconic subscription. We also have a T20 test series which is there every day at 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. Over here we discuss all the questions that will be coming up in the NEET PG exam, and there are a set of 20 questions, and you can give this test every day and see your ranking as compared to the other people in the class. Now, the last thing that I want to tell you about is the free live classes available on Unacademy platform. This month I have been taking 15 free live classes. So we've discussed many things ranging from ECG to ABG to CT scans, X-rays. So we've had quizzes of all of this on the Unacademy platform. They are available to all of you for free, and you are absolutely welcome to go through all of them. They are available live and free on the Unacademy platform for you guys to see. Now let's begin with our class for today. I will be giving you guys some time to answer the question. I will wait for about 20 to 30 seconds, and you guys can write in the chat box what do you think is the answer. Now I have also included the picture of the scientist that we will be discussing, as sometimes they just give you the picture and expect you to know the answer to it. Okay, so the first microbiologist to observe microscopic organisms using microscope of his own design was A. Edward Jenner, B. Joseph Lister, C. Kyoshi Shiga, or D. Antony van Leeuwenhoek. So what do you guys think is the answer? Ajay and Vidisha are saying it's Leeuwenhoek. Do we have any other answers? Kesav is also saying that it is the same. Alright. Yes, the correct answer is Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Absolutely correct. He was the microbiologist who actually made the microscope on as the first design of the microscope was invented by him. That is why that was the most important discovery in microbiology, because unless you have a microscope, you are not going to be able to study any of the organisms. Okay. Now, how do we remember that he was the one who invented the first microscope? Okay. So, I'll give you an easy mnemonic to remember this. So, to look at microorganisms through a microscope, you need a vision like a hawk. Okay, now you all know that a hawk's eye is something which is a very sharp vision. Okay, so many a times we say hawk's eye, or instead of saying that a person has a sharp vision. So if you look through a microscope, you will be able to spot very small microorganisms, and that gives you a hawk's eye. So the microscope gives you a hawk's eye. So from that we will remember the name Leeuwenhoek. Okay, he is the founder of the first microscope. Alright, now next question for today. Who developed the vaccine technique against smallpox? Ignaz Semmelweis, Hans Christian Gram, Edward Jenner, or Louis Pasteur? Vidisha is saying it is Louis Pasteur. Kesav is saying it is Edward Jenner. Do we have any other answers? Ajay is saying it is Edward Jenner. Alright, so this is something which is commonly studied by us even during our MBBS days, or even before that for the 11th and 12th biology. So the first person to come up with the vaccine was Edward Jenner, and the vaccine that he invented was that of smallpox. Okay, smallpox vaccine invented by Edward Jenner. So this is the photo of Edward Jenner. Now, why do I think that this question is very important? It's because nowadays there is a lot of talks about vaccines, about the COVID vaccine, and that's why they may want to know who invented the vaccine of smallpox. Okay, so important vaccines, important discoveries, important causative organisms you need to know, and that's why I have included all of them in today's class. Alright, the next one. Who was a key proponent of germ theory of disease? Ignaz Semmelweis, Hans Christian Gram, Edward Jenner, or Louis Pasteur? You can see this gentleman over here. He was the key proponent of germ theory of disease. So whom do you think it is? Ajay is saying that it is Louis Pasteur. Keshav is saying the same. Any other answers? Do we have any other answers over here? Ajay and Keshav has said it is Louis Pasteur. Alright. So the correct answer for this is D. Louis Pasteur. Absolutely correct. This is the picture of Louis Pasteur, and he gave the germ theory of disease. And how will we remember this important discovery by Louis Pasteur? Now, Pasteur can also be written as pasture. I don't know if you guys know what are pasture lands. They are nothing but grazing lands for cows and cattle. Okay, so from this pasture, we will remember that Louis Pasteur had long pastures, big pastures, on which he used to grow microorganisms. Okay, or he used to grow germs, to be specific. So this is where we all know that he was a microbiologist, and he owned big pastures of lands on which he grew microorganisms or germs, and this is how he studied the germs and he gave the germ theory of disease. Okay, so this is how we will remember that Louis Pasteur was the key proponent of the germ theory of disease. Alright, Next question. Who received the Nobel Prize in 1902 in medicine for discovering that malaria was transmitted by mosquitoes? Emil Adolf von Behring, Sir Ronald Ross, Robert Koch, or Sir Alexander Fleming? Keshav is saying it is Ronald Ross. Ajay is saying the same. Vidisha is also saying the same. Do we have any other answers over here? Alright. So most of you have said that yes, it is Sir Ronald Ross. Okay. Help for Happiness is saying A. Emil Adolf von Behring. The correct answer is B. Sir Ronald Ross. So absolutely correct. He was the one who received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for discovering that malaria was transmitted by mosquitoes. So how are we going to remember Ronald Ross and malaria? So we are going to remember that Ross rhymes with moss. Okay, from moss we will come up with the word mosquitoes. Okay, so Ross rhymes with moss, and as a result of this is how we will remember that Ronald Ross was the person who was the founder of the fact that malaria was transmitted by mosquitoes. Okay, next question. Who received the Nobel Prize in 1905 in medicine for his work on TB and for identifying causative agents of TB, cholera and anthrax? A. Emil Adolf von Behring, B. Sir Ronald Ross, C. Robert Koch, or D. Sir Alexander Fleming? Ajay is saying C. Robert Koch. Ravi Chandran is saying the same. Vidisha is also saying the same. Help for Happiness is also saying C. Alright, absolutely correct. We all know about Robert Koch or Koch's disease. Koch's disease is nothing but tuberculosis. So very correctly mentioned by all of you. We all know that the causative agent of tuberculosis, the tuberculous bacilli, were founded by Sir Robert Koch. But we also have to remember from this question that the causative agents of cholera and anthrax were also founded by him. Okay, so he is really important in 3 diseases: in tuberculosis, in cholera and in anthrax. So they can ask you about these 2 diseases in the exam, because they know that TB is a very common and popular answer. So if they want to confuse you, then they can ask you about the other 2. Alright, next one. Which of these received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for discovering penicillin? Now this is a super easy question. Read it carefully and answer even more carefully. Is it A. Sir Alexander Fleming, B. Howard Walter Florey, C. Sir Ernst Boris Chain, or D. all of the above? Keshav is saying it is Alexander Fleming. Ajay is also saying A. Ravi Chandran is also saying A. Help for Happiness is also saying A. Alright. Now, I know that all of you know that Alexander Fleming was the main scientist who was named as the discoverer of penicillin. However, there were also 2 more people that helped in discovering penicillin, and their names were Howard Florey and Ernst Boris Chain. Okay, so the answer is actually D. all of the above. Now the picture that I have put over here is of Alexander Fleming. However, penicillin was discovered by all 3 of them. even though the more famous name, the one who made a bigger contribution, was Sir Alexander Fleming. Okay, but the discoverer of penicillin was all three: Fleming, Fleury and Chain. Next question. Who received the Nobel Prize in 1951 for developing a vaccine against yellow fever? A. Selman Waksman, B. Max Theiler, C. Hans Christian Graham, or D. Ignaz Semmelweis? Keshav is saying Selman Waksman. Ajay is saying only one guy in that previous pic. Yes, in the previous pic there was only one person. I put the picture only of Sir Alexander Fleming. However, the founder of penicillin was all three of them. Okay, Mohammad Obaidullah is saying it is Selman Waksman. Ajay is saying the same. Health for Happiness is saying the same. But that is the incorrect answer, guys. The correct answer is Max Theiler. Okay, Max Theiler was the one who developed the vaccine against yellow fever. Now, how will we remember this? I will give you an easy hint to remember this. So, yellow, out of yellow fever, we'll remember yellow. Yellow is the color of the cricket jersey of which nation? It is the color of the cricket jersey of Australia. Okay. Now, in Australia, we have an important player called Maxwell. He's a very famous player. I hope all of you follow cricket. So, from Maxwell, we will remember Max, and remember that Max Theiler, who wears a yellow jersey, is actually the founder of the vaccine against yellow fever. Okay, these are difficult questions. Please remember that only mnemonics will help you in these to remember all of them. These are something which are very, very objective questions and you all don't tend to read during your exams. So only if you follow classes like this will you be able to answer in your exam. Okay, who received the Nobel Prize in 1968 for molecular structure of nucleic acids and double helix structure of DNA? Louis Ignarro, Harold Varmus, James T. Watson, or Jack W. Szostak? Keshav is saying that he has had confusion in between remembering scientists, and that is why I have included mnemonics for you guys, because mnemonics will help you in clearing out this confusion, not just while you're studying but also during the main examination, when you will be nervous and you will get confused between names. But all these funny mnemonics will help you to remember the correct answer and get a rank. Alright, so PIMS, medical student, Obaidullah, Ajay, Vidisha, all of them are saying that the answer is C. So absolutely correct. Here I have put a picture of two people over here. So can you tell me who are these two people over here? James T. Watson is the correct answer. Pick depicts, yes, Kesav is absolutely correct. The picture is of Watson and Crick. Okay, they were the ones who gave the double helix structure of the DNA, and they also received the Nobel Prize of the same for the same, and that's why I have put this picture for you. However, I changed the options so that you all get confused a little bit. Instead of putting Watson and Crick, which is a very common answer, I just put the name of one of the scientists. Okay, alright. Now, who is the father of modern pathology or cellular pathology? Jos Verroque, Ludwig Traub, Rudolf Virchow, Ronald Weinstein. Keshav is saying it is C, Rudolf Virchow. Vidisha is also saying the same. Alright, so everyone has answered it. Rudolf Virchow. Yes, this is absolutely the correct answer. Please remember all of these questions. Father of pathology, father of taxonomy, father of toxicology, father of anesthesia, father of microbiology. Okay, now I have discussed a chunk of them in my last class on scientists and their mnemonics part 1, and a chunk of them are going to be discussed in this class. They love asking you all these father questions because they believe that these are all important scientists that you definitely need to know about. Okay, so as a result of this, all of you have to know about these scientists. Okay, so whenever we are talking about pathology, father of modern or cellular pathology is Rudolf Virchow. Okay, now next question. Who is the father of evidence-based medicine? D.L. Sackett, John Snow, Ronald Weinstein, or Karl Marx? Okay, Vidisha and Yash are saying it is A.D.L. Sackett. Looks like they have been quick to find on Google. Keshav is saying the same. Okay guys, absolutely correct. The answer is A.D.L. Sackett. Okay, now how are we going to remember this? Who is the father of evidence-based medicine? I will give you an easy way to remember this. So if you don't have evidence for something in medicine, okay, so if you don't have evidence for something in medicine, so they will not consider whatever you're saying. They will say suck it. Okay, your theory is absolutely of no value. You should just suck it. You should suck your theory. Okay, so please remember this. Evidence based medicine was coined by D.L. Sackett or Donald Sackett. Okay, so this is how we will remember the answer to this question. Now, next question. Who was the French doctor who first identified a disease characterized by vertigo, tinnitus, and hearing loss? Charles Darwin, Prosper Ménière, Howard Lacy, or Lignac? Okay, Obaidullah is saying it is Prosper Ménière. Keshav is saying the same. Dude is also saying the same. Ajay. Okay. All of you know about this. The triad of Ménière's disease. So the picture over here is of Prosper Ménière, and this is the triad of Ménière's disease. Okay, so this is Prosper Ménière and this is the triad of his disease. Okay. Next question. Who is the father of toxicology? Is it D.L. Sackett, Mathieu Orfila, Ronald Weinstein, or Karl Marx? Okay, Yash and Ajay are saying it is Mathieu Orfila. Yes, so the correct answer for this is B, Mathieu Orfila. Okay, now how will we remember this? Who is the father of toxicology? Now there are two ways to remember this. One is developed by me and one by a student of mine. Okay, so the first one we will remember it as is, what is the most important toxin that we study in pharmacology? What is the most important poison or the most important toxin that we study in pharmacology? It is organophosphates, correct? So from organophosphates we will remember the first two letters. From organophosphates we will remember Orfila. Okay, So Mathieu Orfila is the father of toxicology. Now there is one more way to remember this. You can also remember Orfila as Orpila. Okay. Or in Hindi, let me write it as Orpila. And what are we talking about? We are talking about Orpila for alcohol. What is alcohol? Alcohol again is a toxin. Correct? So this is what this is another way devised by one of the students, and he gave it to us. I think it's a very innovative way to remember this. So Orfila or Orfila will help us in remembering alcohol, which is a toxin, and from that we will remember that the father of toxicology is Mathieu Orfila. Alright, next question. Who is the father of Indian surgery? Is it J.P. Modi, Sushruta, Manu or Charak? Vidisha is saying Charak. Keshav is saying Sushruta. Mohammad Obaidullah is saying Sushruta. Yash is saying the same. Okay, yes, the correct answer is Sushruta. He is the father of Indian surgery. Now, can you guys tell me that he is actually what kind of surgeon? Like what was his specialty? What was the specialty of Sushruta? Was it cardiovascular? Was it neurosurgery? Was it general surgery? Was it plastic surgery? What was the specialty of Sushruta? Okay, Keshav is absolutely correct. So he used to do cosmetology. Okay, so he was actually a plastic surgeon, and he was responsible for carrying out rhinoplasties. So he is also called as the father of Indian surgery. Alright, next question. Who is the father of public health? This is one of the most important questions, and if in your exam any question is expected, this will be the one that I expect the most, because we are talking a lot about public health about during the COVID times. So as a result of this, they may go into the history of public health. So who is the father of public health? Is it Jos Verroque? Is it Ludwig Traub? Is it Rudolf Virchow? Or is it John Snow? Yash is saying it is John Snow. Any other answers? Alright, father of public health is absolutely correct. It is John Snow. Okay, now what did John Snow do? Basically, the picture I've put over here is a cartoon caricature of John Snow standing in front of a pipeline. Okay, so what he did was, in London, when there was an epidemic of cholera, he was the one to quickly discover that everyone who drank from the single pipeline was the one who was getting the disease. So actually they say that the father of public health is cholera, but in fact it is the fact that John Snow founded, or he discovered, that whoever is having the cholera epidemic, whoever is a victim of the cholera epidemic, were all drinking from the same tap or from the same pipeline in London. Okay, so as a result of this, he is called as the father of public health. Now there is another father that John Snow is, and that is father of epidemiology. Okay, and there is another father that he is of, and he is also called as the father of anesthesia. Okay, now the father of modern anesthesia is William Morton. However, the father of anesthesia is John Snow. Okay, so father of epidemiology and father of anesthesia and father of public health, all of it is John Snow. Okay, who is the father of ophthalmology? Ludwig Traub, Thomas Dresden, George Bartisch, or Christian Barth? Yes, Ajay, he was also in Game of Thrones, Jon Snow, so a very famous character. Father of ophthalmology. Everyone who is looking up on Google, what is the answer? Keshav is saying George Bartisch. Any other answers? Alright, absolutely correct. The answer for father of ophthalmology is C. George Bartisch. Okay. Now, George Bartisch was actually a young boy and he wanted to study medicine really badly. However, he had no money to study medicine. Okay, so he became an assistant to an oculologist, and that is someone who at that point in time used to treat diseases of the eye. And what he did was he learnt a little bit under him and then started dissecting the eyeball out of cadavers. He also wrote a book in which he described the anatomy of every layer around the eye and around the brain. So there are amazing pictures from that time of him dissecting and showing the anatomy of each and every layer of the eye. And also he was the first successful person to remove the eye completely out of a living human being. Okay, so he is called the father of ophthalmology. Okay, next question. Who performed the first successful organ transplant? Now, this is a very, very important question. This is more related to our generation. This is a recent advance, and that is why this can come for your exam. So, who performed the first successful organ transplant? A. Forrest Bird, B. Francis Crick, C. Joseph Murray, or D. William Osler? Keshav is saying it is C. Joseph Murray. Ajay is saying the same. Utkarsh, I want the answer, not compliments. Alright, so all of you are saying Joseph Murray, absolutely correct. Joseph Murray is the right person. Okay, he was the Dr. Joseph Murray was the first person to carry out the first successful organ transplant. Now, can anyone tell me what was the first organ to be transplanted? If this is asked in your exam, what was the first organ to be transplanted? Doc Gray is saying, ma'am, please give some tips for focus studies. Nowadays, feeling little bit bored on reading notes. You should definitely listen to lectures. Whenever you feel bored reading notes, you should solve quizzes, you should solve more questions and test papers. Yes, Suhail is absolutely correct. The first organ to be transplanted was nothing but the kidney. Yes, who performed the first successful heart transplant? Forrest Bird, Francis Crick, Joseph Murray, or Christiaan Barnard? Keshav is saying it is Christiaan Barnard. Help for Happiness is saying the same. Ajay and Suhail are saying the same. Alright, absolutely correct. Christiaan Barnard was the surgeon who carried out the first successful heart transplant. Alright, now how are we going to remember this? I'll give you an easy way to remember it. So, after the heart transplant, the patient started complaining of, after the heart transplant, the patient started complaining of heart burn. Okay, he started complaining of heart burn. So from that we will remember Barnard. Okay, so Christiaan Barnard was the surgeon who performed the first successful heart transplant. Alright, who invented the first mechanical ventilator? A. Forrest Bird, B. Francis Crick, C. Richard Lawler, or D. William Osler? You can see the picture of this person. He is wearing a very interesting series of spectacles. It looks like there is a bird on top of his spectacles. So maybe that will help you remember the answer to this. This part, it looks like there is a bird flying on top of his head. So Keshav is saying Richard Lawler, Suhail is saying B. So I think I gave you the answer by giving you that small hint that it looks like he is wearing a bird on top of his spectacles. So over here, the person who invented the first mechanical ventilator was none other than Forrest Bird. Okay, so Forrest Bird was not a doctor, mind you, he was a pilot. Okay, now at the age of 16 years he started flying planes, and he became so proficient and so good in flying planes that he joined the US Air Force and he started flying all the fighter planes. Now he used to keep taking them at the highest altitudes. Okay, so when he used to go at higher altitudes, at that time he realized that it was becoming more and more difficult for him to breathe. So he started his search for inventing a type of machine which will help him breathe. So this helped him come up with the concept of a mechanical ventilator. Okay, so something that will be able to help him breathe externally. So the mechanical ventilator, the same idea and design he used to form something called as Bird's ventilator. Okay, so Bird's ventilator was later on used on in hospitals. It was actually made for him and for pilots who fly at high altitudes, but later on it was started to be used in hospitals, and it is still used in some remote areas of the world. So Bird's ventilator, invented by Forrest Bird, was the first mechanical ventilator. Okay, who is the father of antibiotics? Alexander Fleming, Carolus Linnaeus, Edward Jenner, or Salk? Alright, so all the miscreants of the class have been blocked and removed. So everyone who is reading properly for the exam can focus on this now. Okay, alright, who is the father of antibiotics? Alexander Fleming, Carolus Linnaeus, Edward Jenner, or Salk? Now the ones who were there in the beginning of the class, I have put this picture before, so you should be able to identify this scientist. Okay, so we have a few people saying A. Alexander Fleming, we have Yash saying C. Edward Jenner, and we have Med Philomath saying D. Salk. Okay, The correct answer is Alexander Fleming. So most of you answered it absolutely correctly, Alexander Fleming. Now, what did Alexander Fleming find? Which antibiotic did he invent? Okay, what was the antibiotic? Yes, Meds Education is correct. Alexander Fleming actually founded penicillin. Okay, that is the most important antibiotic. Now, how will we remember that the father of antibiotics is Alexander Fleming? A very easy way to remember it, I'll tell you. If we didn't have antibiotics, then we would continue to have a flaming fever. Okay, so if we did not have antibiotics, we would continue to have a flaming fever. So that's how we will remember founder of antibiotics is Alexander Fleming. Okay, next question. Who is the father of immunology? Alexander Fleming, Carolus Linnaeus, Edward Jenner or Salk? Raj is saying it is Jenner, Meds Education is saying the same. Keshav and Kalyan Babu are saying the same. Any other answers? Okay, all of you are correct, absolutely right. Edward Jenner, he is the father of immunology. He was the one who founded the vaccination for smallpox, as Keshav has correctly mentioned. Now, how will we remember that he is the father of immunology? Now, one thing that you can remember is immunology is building immunity. Okay, the study of building immunity. How do you build immunity? One way is by making vaccines. Okay, so the vaccination of smallpox, it was developed by Edward Jenner. So he is called as the father of immunology. The other way to remember it is a little mnemonic, childish way. So immunology has two M's. What is the next letter after two N's? It is after two M's. It is nothing but two N's. Okay. So from this we can remember Jenner. Okay. After two M's of immunology, we have two N's of Edward Jenner. Alright. Next question. Who is the father of microbiology? Antony van Leeuwenhoek, Louis Pasteur, Robert Koch or Alexander Fleming? Meds Education is saying C, Robert Koch. Now, see, have a quick look at the next three questions. This is how they like to confuse you in the exam. Over here it is given as who is the father of microbiology. Next question is who is the father of modern microbiology. Next question is who is the father of medical microbiology. Next is who is the father of virology. And trust me, the answer to all of these questions is different. Okay, so there is a different scientist for the same subject who is named as the father, but they have added one adjective in front of it. So they've kept changing it, and that's why you need to remember what is the right answer for the correct question. Okay, so overall, who is the father of microbiology? So overall, the father of microbiology is A. Antony van Leeuwenhoek. So how are we going to remember this? Now, what did Leeuwenhoek discover? We saw this in the beginning of the class. He was the discoverer for microscope. Okay, he was the one who invented the first microscope. Now, without a microscope, you could not have seen any of the microorganisms. Okay, so the most important discovery in microbiology is of the microscope. So hands down, overall, if you have to choose one scientist as the father of microbiology, it has to be Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Okay. Alright. Now, next question for you guys is who is the father of modern microbiology? Is it Antony van Leeuwenhoek? Is it Louis Pasteur? Is it Robert Koch or is it Alexander Fleming? Okay, Med is saying it is Robert Koch. Raj, Mayank, Ajay, Men's Education, all of you are saying as the answer is C. Alright, so that is the wrong answer, guys. The correct answer is actually, anyone, let's see if anyone gets it correct. That's the wrong answer. Do you want to take another guess? Okay, the correct answer is actually B, Louis Pasteur. Okay, now Louis Pasteur is called as the father of modern microbiology. So do you see over here what they have done? They have added this adjective modern over here. Okay, now if they ask you the father of modern microbiology, please mark the answer as B, Louis Pasteur. And how are we going to remember this for our exam? You will remember that the modern process that came for removal of microorganisms from milk was known as pasteurization. Okay, so pasteurization was a modern process, and what did it help us with? It helped us in removing the microorganisms from the milk, and pasteurization was developed by none other than Louis Pasteur. That's why he is called as the father of modern microbiology. Okay, next question. Who is the father of medical microbiology? Antony van Leeuwenhoek, Louis Pasteur, Robert Koch, or Alexander Fleming? Now Kalyan is saying it is D, Alexander Fleming. And Meds Education is saying the same. Philomath is saying it is Robert Koch. Yours truly, Angel, is saying it is Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Keshav is saying it is Robert Koch. Ajay is saying Alexander Fleming. Okay, so we have a lot of different answers. It is between A, B, C and D. It has to be one of the options, guys. Okay, so the correct answer over here finally is Robert Koch. Okay, a lot of you were writing Robert Koch. He is the father of medical microbiology. Now, how will we remember this? What was the disease that Robert Koch discovered? Okay, so the disease that Robert Koch discovered was nothing but tuberculosis. Okay, so he actually founded the TB bacilli. He discovered the TB bacilli and he gave the theory of tuberculosis through those TB bacilli. Now, tuberculosis is one of the most important diseases that we study in medicine, and that's why Robert Koch is called as the father of medical microbiology. Okay, so since tuberculosis is the most important disease that we study in medicine, Robert Koch is called as the father of medical microbiology. So to simply say, we have three fathers of microbiology. The overall father of microbiology is Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Okay, Leeuwenhoek was the one who founded a microscope. Without a microscope, you could not have studied any microorganisms and there wouldn't be microbiology at all. So he is the overall father of microbiology. Next is father of modern microbiology. So you have to think about some modern procedure introduced in microbiology, and that was pasteurization of milk. Okay, so that was developed by Louis Pasteur. That's why he is called as the father of modern microbiology. After that, we have the father of medical microbiology. Now over here we have to talk about someone who studied a microorganism which gives rise to a very important medicine disease. So that was Robert Koch. He discovered the TB bacilli which gave rise to the disease of tuberculosis. It's a very, very important disease in medicine, and that's why he is called as the father of medical microbiology. Okay, next question. Who is the father of virology? Now this should be easy for you guys to answer. Is it Antony van Leeuwenhoek? Is it Louis Pasteur? Is it Robert Koch? Or is it Wendell M. Stanley? Okay. Yes, everyone has answered it absolutely correctly. It is Wendell M. Stanley, because we have already discussed the other 4 options. Okay. So the father of virology is Stanley. Okay. Now, next one. A bit of a revision of the scientists that we did before. I'm going to be asking you random questions from scientists and their mnemonic part 1 to see if you guys understood and remember that easily. Okay. Who is the scientist who used cocaine for spinal anesthesia for the first time? Was it Carl Kohler? Was it August Bayer? Was it WTG Morton? Or was it Henry Becquerel? Keshav is saying Carl Kohler. Ajay is saying the same. Okay, so this says that you guys need a revision of scientists and their mnemonic part 1. Please make sure that you go through that YouTube video. Most of you have answered this incorrectly. Please read very carefully who was the scientist to use cocaine in spinal anesthesia for the first time. They have not asked overall who was the first scientist to use cocaine for anesthesia. Okay, they have specifically asked who used cocaine for spinal anesthesia for the first time, and the answer for that is August Bayer. Okay, now how do we remember this? We'll remember that August Bayer was a buyer of cocaine. Okay, so he used to buy cocaine, and where would he store it? Where would he store cocaine? He would store the cocaine in his spinal cord. Okay, so from that we will remember that August Bayer was the one who used cocaine for the first time in spinal anesthesia. Okay, next question. Who is the father of modern anesthesia? Now I told you the father of anesthesia is John Snow, but who is the father of modern anesthesia? So that adjective completely changes the answer. Is it Carl Kohler, Eugene Bleuler, WTG Morton or Henry Becquerel? Alia is saying the answer is C, WTG Morton. Mahesh is saying the same. Keshav is also saying the same. Ajay is saying the same. Alright, absolutely correct. The answer is correct. It is WTG Morton. Okay. So Morton is the father of modern anesthesia. So this is how we remember Morton and modern. Both of them sound very similar, modern and modern. Okay. So this is how we will remember the father of modern anesthesia is William Morton. Okay. Next question. Who used cocaine for the first time as a local anesthetic? Now this is a completely different question with a completely different answer and a different image. Okay. So overall, who used cocaine for the first time as a local anesthetic? Was it August Bayer, Louis Pasteur, Joseph Priestley or Carl Kohler? Obaidullah, yes, your name is appearing on your screen, don't worry. It is appearing on my screen, sorry. Okay, it's just coming a little late. It depends on your network and the answers come late. So Mahesh is saying it is Joseph Priestley. Meds Education is saying answer is Carl Kohler. Keshav is saying the same. Mayank is saying the same. And Ajay is also saying the same. But Mahesh Saini is saying that the answer is Joseph Priestley. Alright, so a little bit of confusion between Joseph Priestley and Carl Kohler over here. The correct answer for this question is Carl Kohler. Okay, so everyone who uses cocaine is not cool. He is actually cooler. Okay, he is cooler than the rest. Everyone who uses cocaine feels that he is cooler than the rest or he is cooler than the rest. So that is how you will remember who used cocaine for the first time. Now Carl Kohler actually used cocaine for the first time for ophthalmic anesthesia. Okay, so for numbing the eye to carry out corneal and conjunctival surgeries, he used drops of cocaine, and he realized that it used to cause very good mydriasis, dilation of the pupil, as well as anesthesia. Okay. Now, which gas was discovered by Joseph Priestley? So since many of you answered Joseph Priestley in the previous question, now let's discuss what was actually found by Joseph Priestley. Was it A, oxygen, B, nitrous oxide, C, carbon monoxide, D, both A and B, or E, both A and C? Kalpita is saying it is carbon monoxide. Meds Education is saying nitrous oxide. Mahesh is saying it is D, both A and B. So we have different answers, but most of you have answered it correctly. I can see Mahesh, Mayank, Keshav, Suhail and Rachit have all answered it as D. So absolutely correct. The answer is D. They have founded, Joseph Priestley has founded both the gases of oxygen and nitrous oxide. Now, how will we remember this for our exam? Joseph Priestley, from the name we will remember that he was a priest. Okay, what are priests? Priests are the people closest to God. And what has God invented? God has invented a gas which is most important for life. Okay, that is oxygen, because we cannot live without oxygen. What is the other gas that God has invented? The laughing gas. Okay, so that we all remain happy. So laughing gas or nitrous oxide, that is the other gas that God has invented, so that we all remain happy and we have a good life. Okay, alright, and this would be the second last question for the day. Who founded the instrument in the image below? So they can just give you the image and expect you to know the answer for this. So was it A, Sir Peter Mansfield, B, Sigmund Freud, C, Arthur Ernest Giddel, or D, J.Y. Simpson? Kalpita, thank you so much for liking the mnemonic. Mahesh is saying it is C, Arthur Ernest Giddel. So is Mayank. Alright, Meds Education. Okay. Everyone knows about this airway. It is nothing but the oropharyngeal airway. Oropharyngeal airway, also called as the Giddel's airway. And the founder of this, or the person who made this airway, was Arthur Ernest Giddel. Okay, and the last question for today: name the Scottish obstetrician who first described the properties and uses of chloroform. A, Joseph Lister, B, Christiaan Barnard, C, James Young Simpson, or D, Karl Landsteiner? Alright, the correct answer for this, as most of you have mentioned, is C, James Young Simpson. Absolutely correct. So how do we remember this? We'll remember that chloroform was used to make young women unconscious. Okay, and once you made young women unconscious, they were made pregnant and they required an obstetrician, okay, to deliver the baby. So chloroform was used on young women to make them pregnant, and then they required an obstetrician to carry out the delivery. So that is how we will remember that the Scottish obstetrician who used chloroform for the first time was James Young. Okay, alright. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Everyone who has not attended the part 1 of the class, I highly recommend you to attend. The rest of the scientists are all included in part 1. You will find the class on the Unacademy YouTube channel. I would love to see you all on the Unacademy channel. My name is Jhanvi.s.Bajaj. This is my referral code to get a 10% off on the subscription, and I hope to see you all on the platform, and thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure to follow me on the Unacademy app, as well as my YouTube, as well as my Telegram channel. And we have a class on the Unacademy channel which is free, live, and available to all of you. It is a quiz on X-rays and CT scans of the brain, as well as X-rays of the chest and the abdomen. It is at 10 p.m. today, and I will hope to see you there. It's free and live and special